Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today I thought I'd bring you folks along so you could see what it looks like when 65-mile-an-hour winds hit our gardens. Let's get going. So we just had a morning thunderstorm move through here, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to walk through and let you folks see what it looks like after 65-mile-an-hour winds. Now, I will admit that's not the most it's been. We've had upwards of 80-mile-an-hour winds this year. It's been really crazy from a wind perspective. But when we design our gardens, we know that the last few years the winds have been kind of crazy, and so we sort of take that into account. So since I don't have a lot of limbs and that sort of stuff to clean up today, I thought I'd show you what the plants look like. Let's go take a look at the old garden to start with. So let's just start by doing a bit of a panoramic of the way our yard is set up. This up here is north. I'm talking, man. And our yard slopes pretty dramatically down towards the south. And on the south side of our fence, we have a row of trees. Now, a lot of times this can be kind of a pain whenever we are planting our gardens. But on days like these with these high winds, they really help out a lot. So let's walk down here real fast before we step into, are you serious? Before we step into the old garden, and you can see here, the wind caught the top part of this Roma tomato and just kind of pushed it in on its neighbors. One of the reasons why we like to plant our tomatoes and peppers a little closer than what is absolutely recommended is because it helps a whole lot with that. You can also tell that the bamboo stakes where we tied it up a few times down here on the bottom, it kept the bottom part of the stem from snapping off. So that's a bonus. Okay, let's go take a look at the inside of the old garden. Well, right away you could tell that this basil plant, it doesn't really have any structural support, and it got pushed over pretty well. I believe as the sun comes up today, though, it's going to end up standing up pretty well. But most of this through here is nice and blocked off just because of the way the wind comes in today. It came in from like the northeast, and so very few of the plants got direct wind in this garden. We'll take a look at the cucumbers, though, because they got beat up pretty good. But you can see the trellis system, we didn't have any breakage on it, which is new. A lot of times we will have new growth kind of snap off on the top because it does get a bit more wind shear up there than the beds do that are down here. But if you just take a look at these green beans that we planted, you can see how the wind came through and just laid them all down. It wasn't a huge downpour. We did get, I don't know, about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch or something this morning, which is nice. But all in all, it was really the wind that had the most derogatory effect. You know, sometimes here in 7B, if you get a torrential downpour, it can just beat your plants right into the ground. But the worst thing that happened here, let's go take a look. You can see here our cucumber trellis is dipping back here a little bit, and the reason for that is because this bamboo support here has been bent all the way back. Now, it didn't break because we have it secured to a T-post down here on this part of the trellis. We also have several slicing cucumbers that need to come off, so there's some added weight, or extra weight, I'm sorry, there in the middle. It won't be that difficult to fix. I've got some large bamboo stakes. I'll put it right here in the middle, and then I'll just bring that trellis forward and tie it to that for the rest of the year. Next year what I'll do is I'll make sure that I use, you know, a thicker piece of bamboo right here. You know, we have been prepping for this type of weather now for the last couple of years just because it's so consistent. But even with that knowledge, we still find that we need to improve from time to time. So as we're approaching the top garden, I just wanted to show you, this is a common occurrence as well. Leslie's bee balm. It's really top heavy, and so when the wind comes through, it gets really beat up. Over the course of the day, as the sun comes out, it's going to get about 95 or so today. I think the heat index is going to be well above 100. So once that the heat and the humidity pick up, this plant right here will go back to standing straight up. It does it quite often. So let's go ahead and step here into the top garden. You can see my peppers over here. They're leaning a little bit. I probably need to tie the tops of those up just a bit. But because, again, where the road is, it may not look like it here on the video, but you're looking at about 8 or 9 feet where it's up above the bed. So it takes quite a bit of that wind shear off the top of these, but it still did get a couple of those. And then you can see here how it blew off a limb or two here, but that's fine on those pepper plants. Losing 1 or 2 is not near as devastating as losing an entire plant, I'll tell you that. But we can juxtapose the green beans we just looked at with these. Because of the way the wind came, all of these beds blocked the wind from the green beans, and you can see they handled it pretty well. I think for me the most surprising part is how well the yellow squash has done. It didn't look like it got beat up too bad at all. And then if we go down here and look at our poor zucchini plant that is in the bucket, apparently it does not have the same windbreaks as the other squash. You know, it snapped off right in here, snapped off a couple leaves. But this dude here is a trooper. Anybody who watches the channel regularly knows we thought this guy was gonna die in the last big storm. We had like 70 mile an hour or 80 mile an hour winds come through. Let's just follow up here real quick before we look at the pallet garden. You can see that these cherry tomatoes have also done really well. Part of the reason why we trim the bottoms up as aggressively as we do is to avoid the diseases and bacteria and fungus and that sort of stuff that you get here in our zone. Another major reason why we do it though is it allows the wind to pass through the strongest part down here so that we can concentrate on where the foliage is on the top to tie it up a little more. Luckily we didn't lose anything last time, or this time I'm sorry, but the last time we lost this entire cherry tomato that was growing up this pole in the wind. It just snapped it off right at the bottom. The wind was so fierce. So here, let's just take a look at our tomatoes here in the pallet garden. And if you stand back and look, you can see exactly the direction the wind was coming through. It came right through here and just pushed all of the canopy of our beefsteak tomatoes all against the one side of this pallet. See? You come over here and how much denser this is in comparison to this. And you know, it's kind of funny because like I said, you can literally see directly the flow of the wind on this. But if we look into our actual tomatoes, because of the way that we prune them, our tomatoes, the vegetables themselves, or fruits I suppose, they didn't take any damage, and it looks like we didn't have a whole lot of plant damage as far as limbs breaking or anything along those lines. So it looks like this little trellis system we're using in these pallet gardens are really paying off. It also looks like I need to pick that bad boy and eat it for lunch. No, chicken, you cannot have my tomatoes. If we look over here, it's kind of the same story for our Roma tomatoes. But the good thing about them is they're not as tall as the beefsteak were. The only thing is you can see this area here that's laying, it broke the inside tie. So this afternoon I'll come out and I'll retie this piece and this one over here, because when it snapped it let both of them kind of go opposite directions. But again, we were really fortunate that we did not have any breakage on any of these tomato plants. Can you imagine? I would hate to lose all these guys. Well, the last several years have been incredibly active here on the homestead from a weather standpoint. So as we plan our gardens and things, we have to keep that in mind now more than ever. So, if you're interested in that kind of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and you can kind of follow the channel as we make adjustments to our mini gardens as the seasons go along. As always, I appreciate you all for hanging out with me today. Till next time, I hope everyone takes care of themselves. Peace.